if you've ever felt like your body doesn't really listen to you anymore, like you tell yourself you're going to slow down, take better care of yourself, or finally do things differently. But the moment life gets stressful, everything tightens again. You feel on edge, your body stays braced. And it feels like no matter how much you want calm and not stress, your nervous system just won't follow. Well, then this video is for you. Because this isn't about power, it's not about discipline, and it's not because you're doing nervous system work wrong. There is a deeper reason this keeps on happening, and once you see it, so many things start to make sense. Most people assume that if they just learn the right tools, the breathing exercises, mindset shifts, regulation practices, their nervous system will eventually calm down. And yeah, those tools are important, but what if the tools aren't the issues? What if the real issue is that your nervous system just doesn't trust you yet? And I know that might sound strange at first, but by the end of this video, you will understand what nervous system trust actually means, how it gets broken without you realizing, and why your body stays in protection mode even when you want to feel safe. And you will obviously walk away with some tips on how to change that situation. And before we go any further, in case you're wondering who I am and why I'm talking about this, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a certified holistic health coach, plus I'm currently studying nutrition and integrative health at a master's level. And I work with women who struggle with stress, emotional eating, weight loss, and feeling disconnected from their body. But more importantly than any qualification, this is something I lived through myself. There was a time when I felt like I was doing everything right. I understood stress, I was learning about nervous system regulation, I had the tools, I had the awareness. And yet my body wouldn't soften. Even on calm days, I felt tense. When I tried to slow down, something in me resisted. And every time I told myself, okay, now I really take care of myself, I somehow ended pushing through it again. And that was the most confusing part, because I wanted change. I wasn't avoiding the work. I wasn't unaware. So I kept asking myself, what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? Why isn't this landing in my body? And what I eventually realized changed everything. It wasn't that my nervous system was broken. It was that my nervous system didn't trust me yet. Not because I was doing something wrong, but because over years I had taught my body that my needs came second when things got hard. And once I saw that, so many patterns finally made sense. Why rest felt unsafe, why control showed up so strongly, why regulation disappeared under pressure. So this isn't a quick fix. This is a deeper conversation about consistency, self-trust, and what your body is really responding to. So if you ever felt like your nervous system is working against you, I want you to stay with me, because trust in the body works very differently than trust in the mind. And until you understand how trust is built and broken at the nervous system level, a lot of self-care, healing work, and regulation tools will feel like they only do half of the work. So with all that being said, let's talk about what trust actually means in the body. When we talk about trust, we usually think mentally. We think about believing in ourselves, confidence, saying affirmations like, I've got this, or I can handle it. But your nervous system doesn't speak that language of belief. It speaks the language of pattern. It's constantly asking questions like, what happens when things get hard? Do my needs get met or postponed again? Is rest actually allowed or only promised? When I send a signal, does anyone respond? And by anyone, I mean you. For the nervous system, trust is not about intention. It's about predictability. It's about whether over time your actions line up with what you say you will do, which was such a big thing for me and still is in certain contexts of life. So when your nervous system doesn't trust you, it can look like wanting to relax but staying tense, wanting to slow down but feeling anxious when you try, wanting to eat or rest but feeling resistance, feeling like you have to control everything to feel okay. On the surface you want change, underneath your body is braced. Not because it's against you, but because it doesn't yet believe you will protect it no matter what, when it matters. And all of this is not about blame. I need to be very clear here. If your nervous system doesn't trust you yet, it's not because you failed. It's usually because you've had to override yourself to survive. You've had to push through exhaustion, delay your needs, stay functional no matter what, keep going when stopping didn't feel like an option. And yes, dieting plays a big role in here too. So these patterns, they were adaptive ones. But the nervous system doesn't automatically update just because life changes. It updates when your behavior changes consistently. So then how does trust exactly get broken over time? Let's talk about the first and the biggest reason. Broken promises to yourself and why they matter more than you think. And people hear broken promises, they often think of dramatic vows, and that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the quiet, everyday ones. The ones that sound like, I will rest later, I will eat properly tomorrow, I will slow down once this phase is over, I will take care of myself after I get through this, after the exam, after the workload and whatever. And sometimes you genuinely mean them. But then life happens, pressure rises, something else feels more urgent, so your needs get postponed once again. Your nervous system doesn't evaluate why the promises or the promise was broken. It only registers that it happened. And over time, it learns a rule. When things get hard, my needs are negotiable. So it stays alert because it doesn't trust that relief is actually coming. One broken promise does not break trust, but repetition does. And most people repeat this pattern hundreds of times without realizing it. And that's why the nervous system stays on guard, even when they want rest, healing, or change. Another point is overcontrol as a survival strategy. This one is subtle, especially for high-functioning and ambitious women. Overcontrol often looks like discipline, structure, self-improvement, having it together. And on the surface, it's rewarded. But underneath, overcontrol is often rooted in unsafety. Every time you override signals or force yourself through something, your nervous system hears, I don't trust you to handle this unless I take over. So it stays tense because safety is never practiced, it's only managed. And the last reason I want to mention is inconsistency between values and behavior. You might believe in nervous system regulation, self-compassion, balance, sustainable change, but under stress you still might skip meals, sacrifice sleep, ignore fatigue, minimize your emotional needs, push through anyways. The thing here is that your nervous system does not respond to values, it responds to what actually happens under pressure. So if care disappears when things get hard, trust doesn't stabilize. Now let's talk about how this shows up in daily life. And for this, let's start with rest, because this is where most people notice it first. You tell yourself you will rest, you will finally get a break, and you sit down, and instead of feeling relief, you feel agitation, guilt, restlessness, the urge to be productive. This isn't because you don't know how to rest, it's because your nervous system doesn't yet believe rest is safe or actually lasting. From its perspective, rest has been promised before, rest has been postponed before, rest has been interrupted before, so it stays on guard. And this is why just relax advice doesn't work. Your body doesn't trust that slowing down won't be taken away again, just how it did that many times already. This same trust dynamic shows up strongly with food and eating. If you've ever noticed yourself eating quickly when you want to slow down, feeling urgency around food, swinging between control and letting go, difficulty stopping even when you're physically satisfied, physically full, that's not a lack of discipline. That's a nervous system that doesn't trust consistency. If your body has learned food is sometimes restricted, hunger is sometimes ignored, care is conditional, then it stays alert around food because it doesn't know when support might disappear again, and hence why the binges happen. So trust with food is rebuilt through predictable care and not rules. And lastly, for this part, when your nervous system doesn't trust you, emotions feel overwhelming or inconvenient. You might suppress feelings to stay functional, minimize what you're feeling, tell yourself it's not a big deal, push through emotional discomfort. And again, not because you're disconnected, but because your system has learned emotions don't get space, they get managed. Here's the key most people miss. Trust isn't rebuilt during calm moments, it's rebuilt during stress. And that's when your nervous system watches most closely. What happens now? Do my needs still matter? This is why people often feel worse before they feel better. The body is testing consistency. Rebuilding nervous system trust is not dramatic. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It feels repetitive, boring even. It looks like following through on small things, responding gently when you want to push, staying consistent when results aren't visible, choosing care even when it feels undeserved. And yes, using tools in addition to this. Trust is rebuilt through relatability and not intensity. Your nervous system does not need you to be perfect. It needs you to be predictable. Predictability creates safety. Safety creates regulation. This is why extreme changes often fail. They're like impressive, but not reliable. That's where the identity work comes in. The identity shift isn't I'm someone who has it all together. It's I'm someone who does not abandon myself under pressure. That identity is built through behavior and not belief. And this work is so foundational because when nervous system trust starts rebuilding, emotional regulation improves, food behavior soften, Rest feels safer. Your body's stress response around weight stabilizes. And yeah, weight loss becomes easier without all the cortisol spikes. Simply put, life feels less effortful. Not because you fixed yourself, but because your body finally believes you. Now, before we get to the end, I quickly want to touch on why some people rebuild trust and then lose it again. This is the part almost no one talks about. Many people do start rebuilding nervous system trust. They slow down, they respond differently, they feel a bit more regulated. And then weeks or months later, everything feels tense again. Old patterns resurface, control creeps back in, the body tightens, and they start to think, well, great, I'm back to square one. But most of the time, they're not. What's happening isn't failure, it's unstabilized trust. Your nervous system learned something new, but it didn't yet learn that it is permanent. The nervous system does not generalize safety quickly. Some reasons are that people abandon themselves during high-stress moments, not intentionally, not consciously, but predictably. Things get busy, you're tired, you feel behind, something feels urgent, and suddenly again, rest gets postponed, meals get rushed or skipped, emotion gets minimized, regulation tools disappear. Your nervous system notices that immediately. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet biological one. It updates its conclusions. Care only exists when things are easy. And just like that, trust destabilizes. This is exactly why bouncing back most often doesn't work. Many people try to repair this by resetting. They think, I just need to get back on track, I will start tomorrow, I will do better next week, I will create this new routine. But nervous system trust doesn't respond to resets. It responds to repair. And repair looks like acknowledging the override, returning to care without punishment, not swinging into control to compensate. The moment you punish yourself for slipping, trust erodes further. Because punishment tells the body, mistakes are dangerous. So what does stabilizing your trust actually look like day to day? Let's make this very concrete. It looks like eating when you feel off track, resting without wanting or waiting for permission, responding to stress with support instead of control, continuing gently after hard days. Rebuilding nervous system trust is not linear. You will feel better, then you will feel worse, then feel steadier, and then get triggered again. That does not mean it's not working. It means your nervous system is integrating. Progress in this kind of work looks like fast recovery, less intensity, fewer spirals, more internal permission, and not permanent calm. So let me say this clearly. Your nervous system is not something to manage. It's something to build a relationship with. And relationships are built through consistency, repair, and presence, not pressure. So if you take one thing from this entire episode, let it be this. Your body is not resisting you. It's waiting for proof. Proof that when things get hard, you will still choose care. That's when trust forms. That's when regulation stabilizes. That's when everything else becomes easier. So if this episode helped you understand yourself with more compassion, please hit the like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell and tell me in the comments, where do you notice yourself abandoning care under pressure? Remember, awareness is the beginning of trust and pretty much anything. So lots of love and until next time.